Hello, welcome to part 1 of our Lucky Chloe Basics Guide. Reminder that this is game version 4.2. This first part will be essential tools, which will include essential moves, grabs, punishers, and basic combos. In part 2, we'll talk about common game plan elements and recommend some players to watch, as well as cap it off with a character summary. For beginners, note the resource links in the video description below. I've included several you should check out. Be sure to at least learn notation so that you can follow along easier. With that, 1, 2, 3... Chloe's stances are probably better described as mini stances, which includes back turn, but they still require a broader discussion, so we'll save those for part 2 along with a couple of moves that are relevant to those, namely down back 4, forward forward 4, and down back 3. Chloe has an unorthodox jab combo, but she's also one of the few characters whose 1-2 is high-mid instead of high-high. The follow-ups are pretty nice as well. 1-2-1 is the only one that's unsafe, but can give you a wall bounce in return. 1-2-2 is a chunky knockdown mid, and 1-2-1+2 is the safest option, homing, big plus frames on hit, and a launch on counter hit. 1-2-1+2 is probably the option that causes the most issues because it lingers and your opponent has to duck it, otherwise it'll catch them trying to move around. On block, it's ultra safe, so really good for setups. A lot of this you can do separately from the jab combo too, by the way. Forward 2 is the mid punch, so you can skip the first jab entirely and still have the follow-ups. 1+2 or back turn 1+2 is the spinning homing swipes. Down back 1 is the wall bounce, although by itself it's also a power crush and a little more unsafe at -13. Back 2 is the mid spike. Down 2 is also a lighter version of that, if you will, and very good in its own right at 0 on block, still a knockdown on counter hit. She also has a 2 jab, although it's I-12, and the follow-ups aren't super scary, so you'll see those a lot less. 1-2 is where the work is going to happen, so abuse those options. 3 is a safe I-15 mid, plus 4 on hit and can go to back turn. 3-4 is a launching counter hit combo, -14, but for Chloe to win, she's got to take some risks, so your opponent has to know you're willing to do that. It does have a big delay, and you can somewhat situationally confirm the counter hit, but a 34 damage launcher means a huge juggle for Chloe, so it is worth it. Chloe has more or less the same standing 4 that Eddie has. It's safe, mid, I-12, decent range. On counter hit, she actually gets several more frames of advantage, which is something Eddie doesn't get. Regardless, it's a fast, useful keep out tool. Forward 4 is another safe mid with the option to go back turn, this time a low crush. You also have forward 4-4, an NC launcher, can also go back turn, which can actually make it safer or riskier if they read you right. Mind games either way, although speed and tracking are the biggest issues with forward 4, so be careful. Forward 1+2 is a big damage wall bounce, big +7 on block 2. It's slow and a high, but if you place it well, it's a solid pressure tool. Just don't overuse it. Down forward 1 is a safe I-13 mid poke. It's a generic down forward 1, although hers has a fat hitbox, so you'll be spamming this like crazy. You also have a low follow-up to be even more annoying. Just don't overuse that since it's not particularly fast, although it is a natural combo, so something to keep in mind. Just a really strong, simple tool. Down forward 3 is a safe I-14 mid poke. One of her best moves, honestly. It has great range and tracks very well to her left, and you have 2 mid follow-ups for more cover. Down forward 3-2 is safe, but it's never a combo, counter hit or not, and can be interrupted. Although the second hit will launch if it hits counter hit by itself. Down forward 3-3 is unsafe, but it's a natural combo and can't be interrupted. Down forward 3-3 can also splat. A lot you can do with this string, but down forward 3 in particular is a great poke. Quick honorable mention to the toe kick. It's a high crushing I-13 low with solid range and tracking. -2 on hit, which is really good for setting up evasive traps, something we'll discuss in part 2. Again, Chloe needs to harass, and toe kicks have been doing it for generations. Down back 1+2 is an I-25 backsway launcher, very unsafe at -16, but you'll see this fairly regularly from Chloe's because of the evasion, and since you get good reward on hit, it's worth it to make sure your opponent knows that you're willing to use it. Just don't abuse it too hard. Back 1 is an I-17 ground hitting power mid. It's -11 on block, but it's a solid whiff punish due to its range, which is better than all of her other quick punishers. It splats on hit. It's really good on Oki due to the fat hitbox that hits grounded, but can also launch if you happen to nab a counter hit. A lot more versatile than at first glance. Back 3 is an I-17 homing mid, can go to back turn and gives a spin on hit for big plus frames. On counter hit, gives a stun for a free follow-up, whether you go to back turn or stay facing front. Roughly the same speed as back 1, so another good whiff punisher, but Chloe has some tracking problems and back 3 really helps as an option against stepping. Back 4 is a safe I-16 counter hit launching knee, plus 8 on hit, which is a ton. That actually means that on hit it can frame trap itself, which is fun. Just a nice simple tool and one of her best moves. Back 1+2 are safe high spins, looks similar to 1+2 but a few differences. Back 1+2 is a power crush, it isn't homing, it's worse on block, but it always gives a knockdown, and since it has more spins to it, it more reliably splats as well. Really good power crush. So Chloe actually has two hop kicks. Up forward 4 is your more standard option at I-15 and -13 on block. Up forward 3 is riskier at -15, but it has significantly more range and it is infamous for sneaking under highs. The range though is such that up 3 is more common than up forward 3 because it allows you to space it better so that most players will just stick to their normal 12 frame punisher to avoid a potential whiff, which eliminates that extra risk. It's a really important tool, which is why you'll see so many Chloe players spam it. It's actually rare to see her normal hop kick because she has this. If you want something safer but a bit less reward, up 3+4 is a safe double mid knockdown on hit for a free back 1 after. It also hits grounded. Up 3 is more common, but up 3+4 is still something you can use. Forward 3 is a safe I-18 power mid, knockdown splat on hit, solid range, so it's really good for ranged poking, so to speak, very easy to use. Essentially a mix-up between Chloe's two running moves. Running 3 is similar to a generic running 3, although slightly less damage and plus frames on hit. However, you can get a free dash back 1 in a lot of situations, especially near the wall, which increases the reward quite a bit. Running 3+4 is a knockdown double low, very unsafe on block and can be stepped, but she was severely lacking a scary low prior to this, and being the same speed as running 3 helps hide it. Learn to do both instantly, as that will make them scarier. Speaking of important lows, sidestep 4 is a quick high crushing low poke that goes back turn, +2 on hit and a counter hit launch. Getting to back turn with plus frames is really strong for Chloe, as we'll talk about in part 2, but it's also useful for keep out when you're moving around in the neutral, since the counter hit combo hurts really bad. Couple full crouch options to make note of. While standing 4 is of course your safe I-11 mid poke. Chloe is also one of the few characters with an I-14 launcher in while standing 1-4. Very unsafe though, so be sure before you let it rip. You also have a true mix-up in full crouch down forward 1 and full crouch down forward 4. The former is a low swipe +4 on hit, counter hit launch. The latter is a mid launcher. Both are very unsafe, but if you can be really annoying with the low, you can reap dividends if they start trying to counter it. Otherwise, keep the while standing 1-4 locked and loaded at all times. Chloe's raise drive is a better version of her full crouch down forward 4, one that you can also do from standing and back turn. It's +4 on block, which is great, but you have the option to stay back turn with it and it's still very safe. On hit, you get a much bigger juggle by staying in back turn, otherwise it has a built-in elbow follow-up for easy damage. Solid rage drive all around that also beefs up her back turn and full crouch game. Chloe is another one of those characters that doesn't have much for grabs. Only one command grab and the normals. No position changes for any of them on break, so no break benefits. The only really threatening thing is if down forward 1+2 connects. It does no damage, but it switches sides, putting her at the opponent's back at +8. From there, it's a mix-up. If they try to turn around and block, you get a free 1-2 1+2 in their back, which gives an additional free back 1 follow-up. So basically juggle damage. If they try to duck or attack, up forward 3 will win, which is of course a normal launcher. So she gets a little mix up, which can lead to big damage. Problem is landing the grab in the first place, so do your best there and try to be unorthodox with your timing. This brings us to the end of part 1. You should now know all the basic tools that you need to get started and play some matches. In part 2, we'll talk more about other aspects of Chloe's game plan to help put it all together. Expect that here in a couple of days. And with that, thanks for checking out this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications here on YouTube so that you get alerted when a new video drops. Twitch and Twitter links are also down below. Lastly, huge thank you to our patrons. The more support we have, the more resources we can devote to channel content. So again, I can't thank everyone enough for considering supporting the Patreon. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.